This is the book of Psalm 64 and verses 5. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? First and foremost, I'll give all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone. Salutation to Akim, pushing this word in sincerity and in truth. This is your brother Yassad, back at you with another lesson. Hopefully that it will edify. And from off of the book of Psalm, the 64th chapter, King David understood who the enemy was and their intentions. And what he did, he cried unto the Lord, to basically preserve his life, from the wicked. And this is a daily, the men of the Lord pray, unto the Lord, because we know it's enchantments and all sorts of, different, attacks Esau, Edom, sends out daily, because we know he dwells heavily into his witchcraft and whatnot, right? Got some little, clips here that I want to bring out, fair use. This is just for, educational purposes, nothing to, go against YouTube guidelines, and it's just to show you the mind of Esau, Edom, and his plan to control and be like the Most High. And it's all intertwined into his whole, system, his whole recept that he's coming with. This is one here. Right. It says a non-maxed but deeply asleep people are in a different category. They still have the original DNA and nervous system intact, but they are heavily programmed by media, education, social conditioning, and fear. Because this here is one of the ways they're able to program the minds of the people. For instance, the television tell a lie and vision. There's all to keep the minds of the people under a certain vibration or being blind to what's actually occurring. Right, that was being mentioned here. So this here is one of the, many of the means. Right, it's a program by the media, heavily programmed by the media, and it's all what to keep them asleep, but deeply asleep people, because the scripture mentions that that the Lord will then remove that covering cast, right? Isaiah 25:7, and he will destroy in this mountain under Esau's governmental structure is ruling the face. He will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people and the veil that is spread over all nations, which is talking about Esau's lies and his propaganda through his whole educational system, the media, and all we push upon the people to keep them in that state, because the scriptures say darkness cover the earth, right, which is literal darkness at the night, and gross darkness, right, which going into Esau and keeping the people asleep, into all his plans. Isaiah 60 and 2, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. For the Lord shall arise unto thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. Which going back into the elect, because the Lord gonna keep them out of that blinding, out of that darkness that Esau has. All his philosophies and all his way of thinking and whatnot. Right? We able to see this devil for who he truly is, and what his plan for the people of the earth is. Which is something very scary. You know? And not and nothing good. Psalm 64 and 1. The Psalms of David, hear my voice, O power, in my prayer preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Yeah, because the scripture say, um, he comes but to steal, rob, and kill. That is Esau's plan. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked. Because yeah, is the elite 1%ers, behind the summit tables and discussing all the plans and how they're able to keep the minds of the people um, in a lost state, fill them with bread and circus while they operate behind the doors, behind closed doors, on the plan from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their sword like a tongue and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. Because going back into the Isaiah 10, which is the unrighteous decrees, they able to set up laws, take away the right from the poor, you know, and 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 whatnot, right? Because they being able to um putting into law, you know, that that would affect the average, person, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect, because is mainly to target the elect. Suddenly they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. So they have the plan working through gradualism. The commune of lanes, snares, privily. So, the scripture say that the trust in the witchcraft from the youth, you know, because this is um one of Esau's weapon, you know. Stand. Let's see. Stand. Right. Isaiah 47 and 12. Right. What's that at 10? It says, for thou hast trusted in thy wickedness, thou hast said, none seek me. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge it hath perverted thee. Because the scripture says in Sirach that the knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom. And this is all they portray. Evil wickedness. Because the scripture said They shall know him, he gonna be called what the border of wickedness, Esau Edom. Thy wisdom and thy knowledge, it had perverted thee. So that is all coming from this man. And thou hast said in thine heart, I am, and there and none else beside me, because the scriptures say, wanted them that device iniquity, upon them bed and upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it. When back into the time is right, because they know exactly what they're doing, right? And they trying to keep the plans behind closed doors that no one would figure it out. But the Lord says, surely he revealed his secrets unto the servants, the prophets, where it is be pointed out your plan, your wicked agenda, and whatnot. Right? It said, therefore shall evil come upon thee, because it's all gonna backfire on him. Thou shalt not know whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee. Thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. Yeah, because all the trap they are setting for the Lord's elect, they gonna fall upon it, and they're gonna catch their own self. Stand now with thine enchantments, and this is the point, and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein because he programming through the media and all these things is sorcery, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth, because this haven't been going on now. That's Esau, the scriptures say, and he was more subtle than all the other beasts of a field. If thou, if so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. So from the youth, that is basically what it bring forth. Psalm 64. I'm going to read a bit into the article. How it affects them. They will suffer less physical damage than the maxed, but their minds are still what trapped in the illusion, the sorcery. They will follow the system, believe the narratives, get angry at a weak people, and participate in the control grid, digital IDC, BDC surveillance, because it feels normal and safe. Many will become even more reactive and aggressive as the chaos increases, or no have KO, to continue to keep chaos, so the people would always, look towards, the government for the solution. And whatsoever we seem, right, the government will, whatsoever more or less direction the elites want the people, and that is where the government now would execute to lead the people into that direction. They will defend the system that is destroying them. They are not zombies in the same physical way, but they are mentally and energetically asleep. Many of the heavily maxed or frequency exposed people will not make it through the next years. Because that's actually destroying the immune system and all these things. The combination of chokes, the spike pro, immune damage, constant 5G Wi-Fi, HARP, and other frequency weapons is slowly breaking their bodies and nervous levels. So this is a minor Esau Edom. They will perish in waves, from sudden heart issues, turbo cancer, neurological collapse, immune failure, or simply sudden death with no clear explanation. It is already happening, it will accelerate. Yeah, because this is the devil, as the scriptures say, he will cause his own tongue to fall upon themselves. Right? The scriptures say he that is evil to himself. So if he would pull these tricks on his own people, who's 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 you? Sirach 14 and 5. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. And again, right, um, his goods, given into his hands, you know. So the people being his servitudes and subjects and whatnot, and he never taken pleasure to keep them well. He's all about keeping the people sick, destroyed, dead. That is all this man is. Instead of he invests, to get hunger and all these things out, he wanna bring in the famines. This is the show. This is the devil. You know, he would never do good. He that is evil to himself, to his own people, he would bring the he brought this upon the machinations. To whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. Same Sirach 10 and 2. And let's start at 3. Let's start at 2. As the judge of the people is, so are his officers. And what manner of man the ruler of the city is, such are all they that dwell therein. And always seen as what? The scriptures say, the wicked compass about the righteous. So wickedness and all these things would always go by. They would always get their way. The scriptures say, the wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. Psalms 12, the last chapter. And that is why you're seeing things like these things being passed through laws, the unrighteous decrees. Look, for instance, lab grown meat and these things approved through the FDA and whatnot. Just wickedness and things to destroy the people. An unwise king destroyed his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city will be inhabited. And this is an unwise king, because all he's fit on is destroying the people, no matter what is the cost to get his way. Let's say raw and straight blackouts, the first noticeable rolling blackouts and grid tests will start late 2026, early 2027. They will increase in frequency and duration through 2027, 2028. The big widespread ones, days or weeks in some areas, are most likely in 2027, 2028, used to justify the full digital control push. Because yeah, it's like they wanna make it look like, hey, here's the scene, the 5G now shutting down, the system not fully being able to run optional, and here what let we start to run, you know 6G and whatnot. The causing chaos, and they come out the solution to fix the problem. Water shortages. These will be rolled out gradually. Local restriction and rationing start in many places. The more aggressive digital ID tied shortages will hit harder. The whole process is designed to be slow enough that most people get used to it, but fast enough to create fear and dependency. So you see where the cunning planners, they lay snare privately, because it's all to gradually box you in. Let's say the major rolling out blackouts and grid tests blamed on what? Climate or cyber attacks used to introduce small meters and digital rationing. Water shortages started many places, local restrictions, then digital ID for water accesses in some regions. Economic pressure increases 2027, inflation, job losses, CBDC pilots, more people pushed into the digital system. So that is the plan. Major health crisis or new virus scare, Hanta or similar, used to justify what more control, lockdown, and digital health passports. Digital ID become mandatory in more countries for banking, travel, and services. Yeah, so the plans being, exposed. CBDC fully rolled out in most countries, cash by 2028 heavily restricted or phased out. The ultimate plan. Get rid of the cash. You know, one of the ultimate plan. Because this here is what is a small defense, as the Ecclesiastes says, chapter 7. Money is a defense and wisdom is a defense. You know, so that. So they now come in to take full control of your defense and leave you dependent fully upon them and fully reliant on them. So they would have that full control. Social credit like systems linked to digital ID and CBDC behavior tracking becomes normal. The NWO Great Reset milestone, full digital economy, programmable money, surveillance grid, target date for full implementation of Agenda 2030 goals, climate digital control, reduce human freedom. Right? The maxed NPCs will what? Will be deleted gradually in waves over the new next 3 to 10 years. 2026 to 2027, first noticeable increase in sudden deleting turbo cancer, heart issues, and neurological problems, many in 30s and 50s. 2027, 2029, bigger waves, the immune system that were damaged start failing more openly, more deleted, more cancers, more autoimmune collapse. The long tail, the ones who survive the first wave, will have chronic issues and shorter lifespans. Many will be deleted from secondary causes. Infections, organ failure, accelerated aging. The majority of the real damage will show between 2027 and 2030. So this is the devil for you, right? As the scripture says, Proverbs 4 and 16. For they sleep not except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. Yeah, because the scriptures say, so they themselves say, Yuval no Hari, you know, um, it's like they have no use for humans anymore, you know. So hey, the devil is surely gonna be shown and be playing in your face soon when he comes knocking on your door. So hopefully this lesson was edifying. All praises to Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Double and say elders, the apostles of Great Millstone. Salute to you brothers. Shalom to you sisters. Until the next shalom.